Welcome, everybody. We have another episode of the Transform Your Birth podcast. And today with me is Hannah and Chris. I've got a father in today, which is really exciting because dads and other partners can make a huge difference to a woman in labour. And too often they feel like token bystanders, and they often have fears about freaking out in the corner and things like that. So once I do my best to prepare them, they realise just how significant and perfect they can be for that labouring mum. So welcome, Hannah and Chris. Good to see you both.
Good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Hi.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris, for taking a walk outside and getting on and giving us a perspective from where you sit, because it's a powerful perspective. So maybe if I just start with you, Hannah, just give us a bit of an idea about how you were feeling about your pregnancy and the birth and what sort of preparation you did.
Yeah, absolutely. When we did your course, Tracy, you actually asked us to do this, and that was the first time I'd actually taken a moment to think about how I was feeling about the birth.
Yeah.
I think I'd sort of put it to the side and went, oh, that's later Han's problem. I will worry about it on the day. Didn't really want to think about it. And I think some of the words that I wrote down were scared, probably terrified, nervous, anxious, unsure. And so it was I felt very unprepared. Like there was nothing I could do. It was just going to happen, and let's get it over with. It was where I was beforehand.
Are you aware, Hannah, of why you felt that way? Like, was that because of things people had told you, or what fed into that worry?
Yeah, I think I've had some friends who had babies, a little bit before me, and had told me how horrible it was. And I'd, seen movies and TV shows of people screaming and being rushed to the hospital. And so that's what I had in my mind about what it was going to be like, that it was going to be chaotic. Waters were going to break at any moment. And I'm sure we'll get into this later, but that, of course, wasn't at all our experience. I just, a mixture of what I'd been told and what I'd seen.
TV births are just, you should hear me go off like a banshee when I see when I see a birth scene on TV. It's so rare I see one that even comes close to what birth looks like. And I think one of the things that we have to appreciate is anything that goes on a screen, it's all about drama. It's all about hooking people in. And so when you take something as well, I call birth boring as birth, which is really hours and hours of contractions starting and stopping. It's rare that there's a hurry going on. It's more towards the end that things get a little bit more interesting, but most of it's just contractions coming and going. And so that can give us a really distorted view around birth. But then, of course, other people's stories do influence us as well. And it's not always easy to truly understand a person's experience and the context in which they were birthing, the levels of support they had, and what unfolded for them, because ultimately that's their story. And other people's stories aren't generally that useful unless they give you a bit of an idea about what helped them. So you came along and did the course. What started to change in you when you came and did it?
Well, I think what's probably helpful is the reason we came along to the course in the first place was we'd done the hospital, training that you sign up for, and it was all online. It was really impersonal. It certainly gave us the factual information about what happens during birth, but I didn't feel, I think empowered was the word I would say to Chris. I didn't feel...
It was just an information dump.
Yeah.
Here's the information on birth. Good luck.
Yes. Yes. And Chris said something to me, and he meant it in the most encouraging, beautiful way. Because I was like, oh, you're not listening, He said, oh, don't worry about it. I am listening. I'm, taking little bits in, but I know that you'll just tell me what I need to do. And I thought, oh no, this is not good. Like I can't be sitting there. I still, of course, had no idea what labor was going to be like, but I knew I couldn't be there directing Chris what he needed to do. So I quickly went online and tried to look up some courses, and so I found your course and was like, we need to enroll in this because it was mainly actually, I was like, I need Chris to to be on the same page as me, and I want us to be a team. And I wanted to have a sense that I could have some kind of not control, but influence about what was happening to me. And I just felt like having the facts and the figures, I just didn't feel empowered, or that I could influence what was happening around me. Yeah.
That's really interesting. When I work with childbirth educators in the hospitals, I often go and do some sessions up there. And, you know, I've talked to midwives about this. When we talk too much about the what can happen and what we expect of you and what this is all about, and not enough about the how, we leave people stranded. It's like you've thrown them in the ocean without a life raft. How would I deal with that if this unfolded? And so my approach is very much about distilling the information in a way that people get very, very clear on how to manage it, both for you and also for Chris. So, Chris, how were you feeling leading up to the course and in pregnancy, and thinking Hannah was going to be the one to just direct you and you'll just do what you're told? Is that what you were thinking?
Yep. So I guess after doing the course, a good way of explaining it, I think, post birth and debriefing, was I had no idea what I didn't know.
Yeah, of course.
Because in the Canberra hospital sort of information, they just go, you know, your support person's there to support, but they don't necessarily tell you how to support.
Yeah.
And that's where your course really helped with what I need to do as a support person to actually be useful, and rather than be a hindrance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We keep talking about your course. We didn't get paid to say this.
No.
You didn't tell us to say this.
This is a plug, a paid advertisement.
Yeah.
No, but this is, you know, what I'm trying to help people to understand is the process of change, what really starts to move the needle for birth. And there are lots of other courses that are very, very good besides mine at helping partners to know just how valuable they can be.
Yeah, well, it shifted it from a mum's going through birth, like my mindset this is. It shifted my mindset from a mum's going through this to a we're going through this as a team.
Nice.
So like going in and being like, right, like, you know, if a decision needs to be made, Hannah can't make that decision because there will be other things on her mind in the moment, like pain. And that's where I need to step in. And, you know, there's a lot of discussion before you head in, going, right, in this situation, what do we do? And we, you know, part of the course is we came up, you know, you come up with how you want to, like, what your ideal birth is, and then the what ifs that pop up, and having sort of ideas of, right, what did mum want in that list of possible what ifs, and how do I execute that as the support person?
So it sounds like you're describing that sort of birth preferences sheet or birth map, which helps you to go through together who you are and what's important to you as a couple, how you want to approach this, to communicate that to your carers. And then if things start to deviate off the normal path, how, you know, what options you'd like to explore and things like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Hannah, that must have made you feel a lot better then, knowing Chris was all over this.
Oh, it was the biggest weight lifted off my shoulders, Tracy. I think I was maybe carrying the burden of birth. It felt alone. And so having Chris be on the same page as me, understand what and how was going to happen, was so relieving in that sense. So even though I was still fearful and unsure, I definitely didn't feel like I was going through it alone anymore. And not that Chris would have ever, you know, left my side or anything like that, but just having us be on the same page was so helpful.
And was actually able to help when you needed help.
So,
rather than sitting there going, what do I do?
With two very distinct roles, and the partner role is very, very significant. People don't realize how significant a partner can be. And when we go through just some of that really practical stuff, as well as also helping her to find comfort, as well as, being able to ask the questions to get the information you need to make some really good decisions if you need to. So that's fantastic. Let's fast forward now to the time. There's your little one. How's he going? He wants to speak too. So if you hear sound,
he's got quite the voice.
Yeah, good on him. So let's talk about his day of when he decided to hit the land.
Well, he didn't want to come, Tracy. He had to get forced out. So he, I mean, I say overdue. I mean, what's really due, what not due? But he was 2 weeks late from his due date.
Right.
And
his eviction notice.
Yes, and I think I was ready to punch anyone else who asked, had he arrived yet?
Oh, that's such a terrible question.
Following the due date, I was pretty over it by the end. So we were ready for him to come, and it of course blew every stereotype we had in our minds of what birth was going to be like. We were actually getting our kitchen done. And we just handed the keys over to the builder and said, off you go. We're heading off to the hospital now. So I didn't have any dramatic moment of rushing to the hospital in the middle of the night, grabbing our hospital bag, running into the car or anything like that. We drove really calmly to the hospital and, took our time to find a car park, and it was really bizarre.
Took Coles on the way to get some snacks.
Yeah, we just got some snacks on the way. It was not at all what we expected it to be. And I was induced in the afternoon, and they said, oh, look, this is the first sort of round of induction, I guess. It's probably not going to, really get you into labor, so have a good night's sleep, and hopefully you'll be dilated enough that we can do the next sort of round of induction in the morning and get things on the road. So we thought, okay, great. We set ourselves up with our snacks, what we're watching things on Netflix. It was all very not at all what we'd anticipated it was going to be in that moment. That was the beginning of it. I don't know if Chris wants to.
So was this at night? Did you come in later in the day and then
about
up to
4 o'clock in the afternoon, I think?
Okay.
We started our day at 7:30 in the morning to then go to your sisters because we had the builders here.
Yeah, sister-in-laws.
Because it was the second last day of the kitchen being done. So
wow.
My suggestion is don't recommend doing a kitchen renovation just before. But,
in the middle of everything.
So our midwife was part of that journey the whole way because we found out around the time that we were having him that we'd just booked in a kitchen. So
she was
she was there she saw the old kitchen and saw the new one.
Oh wow. If I had $1 for everybody who renovates or moves when they're pregnant.
Why not?
Yeah. So they put some ripening stuff on your cervix. Can you describe what they actually did in that first round?
So they called it, I guess, the shoelace or the tape.
Right.
So I'd had in the lead up to that 2 stretch and sweeps, and that hadn't done anything. And of course, I'd been given all the advice in the world about how to bring on baby, and I tried every single one of them. Nothing worked. And so this was the tape, and they just sort of shove it up your vagina, and you pretty quick really, and you're just waiting around for something to happen.
I'm pretty sure they said, this probably won't trigger anything. So like we'll see you in the morning.
Okay. All right. Well, what happened then?
So that happened at about 4:30 in the afternoon. We got some dinner like while we're in our room, and we're watching Netflix, and then you started getting sort of like a period cramp feeling, I think is what Hannah described it as, around 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then I think neither of us got any sleep, but we went to bed at about, 11 o'clock. And then I think about an hour later is when it sort of started. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I was so excited when the period cramps were coming. I was sort of standing up, like,
just jumping around,
going, come on, get out.
There's a really good photo prior, like we're sitting there with a laptop. I got a photo of Hannah. She's got, belly out with the I'm trying to remember the heart rate monitor for the baby.
Yeah.
Sitting across her tummy, and she's got two big thumbs up. And little did we know what was about to happen.
So what happened? Wow.
So yeah, just as we were about to go to sleep and go, I guess it was hard to go to sleep because there's so much anticipation. We thought, no, we need to get some rest. And pretty much as soon as we lay down to get some sleep is when the pain went from period cramps to quite severe quite quickly.
Yeah.
And so I said, oh, Chris, I'm not feeling well. I think, I need to go have a shower. Like hot water is going to, help. And very quickly things are ramping up, and I was in a lot of pain. And so
we'd also kept in contact with the night midwives as well, just kept them updated on how Hannah had progressed from cramps to pain and whatnot.
Yeah, so then I was in labor, and the contractions were coming really, really fast. So I had heard, that it would be quite slow lead up, and then there'd be quite a lot of breaks between contractions, but that just wasn't what happened for me at all. It was they just kept coming and coming and coming, and so I just ended up lying on the floor in the bathroom with the hot water on me, like in the shower. And
we tried everything as well. Like we, there was my mattress, the one that the hospital
little gym mat,
little gym mat. You tried lying down on that. You tried the exercise ball, and and I remember our preferences was no painkillers. So, like we were trying to do it natural without epidural or anything.
Yeah.
And Han said, we were in the shower, and this is like a very abridged sort of thing because it felt super long but was short but was also quite long. Like, this is a 5-hour window where we'd shifted positions around the room, try the bed, then try my bed. Then
I had no sense of time. I thought it was like 40 minutes.
I can see why they've got the clock above the bed so mum
out
can't
of the
see
way.
it.
That's important.
Because it's you can't, I guess, as the mum, you don't really want to follow what time it is while you're going through.
It can get in the way of the mind. Absolutely. So Hannah, these contractions were really coming thick and fast. So you found different ways to find comfort. Just describe a little bit more. Chris was saying you were lying down at one stage, you're on the birth ball. What else were you doing to find comfort with all of that?
I think the thing was I found it really difficult to find comfort, which again will make sense later on. But the heat, so we had a heat pack as well that could actually Velcro around your waist, and I found, just with my pregnant belly. Oh yeah, here we go, this one here. And that helped a lot. So when I have really nasty periods, that was always a real comfort, and I think that I brought that in with birth as well. Also, I specifically told Chris, don't tell me the time. I don't want to know how much time has passed. And I think that was a real comfort because, and now hearing Chris's perspective and hearing how long it was, I'm glad I didn't know that in the moment because it did go that quickly. Time. Yeah, absolutely. But otherwise, the heat from the shower was really good. But unfortunately, ended up there were some complications, so they wanted to check Bub's
Well, we're still jumping a bit ahead there. So
sorry.
before we get to that bit, I remember you sitting in the shower. So this is I guess a support person thing is so we talked about not having painkillers, and then Hannah sitting in the shower or lying on the floor of the shower begging for painkillers.
Yeah.
And I tried all the stuff that you sort of talked about, where you try to distract them, and because we shifted positions a few times, and then just trying to talk to her about anything, because you'll talk about anything in the moment to try and distract your partner. And I just remember you absolutely begging, going, no, I know we said this in the thing, but I really need it. And at that point, I think we'd probably been up for possibly 20 hours at that point, because we'd started quite early in the day.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, I'll call the midwife, and we said, can we get an epidural? And I think it took about an hour before they again, in the moment, it's just I don't know how much time passed. But they came back and said the anaesthetist was in an operating theatre and wasn't able to come. So they said they could give us morphine. So we did that. And I have to say, it did nothing.
No.
But yeah, it was that sort of moment where a tough decision as a support person is, you've got your plan. And I think you put it in the course is you can plan a trip to Italy, but then you end up in India.
Yeah.
And that was a perfect way of putting it, because it's in that moment I was like, all right, we're going to India. This is not as we planned, but we'll try get to Italy, but let's get the epidural and morphine, just something. So
yeah. And I think because we'd done the course, and I could tell that Chris was trying to distract me, and it was able for me to go, look, this is not a drill. This is I actually really I'm not coping at the moment. We need to do something about it. And then it turns out Bub wasn't okay, so we had to get hooked up to the heart monitor, and unfortunately that meant we couldn't really move around,
back
and
onto the bed.
So I couldn't be under the hot water, which was really soothing, and couldn't sit on the balls, so that was unfortunate, but that's what had to be done in the moment. To make sure that he was okay.
And I remember at one point, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I'm part of that knowledge of I've got to make that call if Hannah's begging and distractions aren't working, is I was like, okay, we've been awake for 20 hours at this point. I'm exhausted and I'm not going through labor. So it's time. So you just sort of use all the information available to you, from the course, what's been happening in the moment and whatnot, and you make a call off that. And it's just gut feeling. It's purely gut feeling.
So that's sort of where we got to, and then things weren't feeling right, so we were hooked up to the heart monitoring machine, and they were a little bit concerned, and by this point I think I was actually pushing, so I was
so pushing,
fully dilated, was pushing.
Pushing started at about 6:30 in the morning. So we'd gone through the whole night awake, and it was about 6:37 when you started pushing, and then you kept pushing a lot.
So I had no real concept of how long was long, or what who knows, and I don't know that anyone really knows, but I remember the midwives had told me that there's this little door that they flip down when things are really ready, and because that means that they're going to put Bub on that ledge there, and so I kept looking at that door thinking, oh, it must be soon, and that never happened, and I was just kept feeling really defeated because they weren't putting that door down, and I was pushing, and sorry if it's an overshare, but pooping up a storm. So I thought, I'm doing everything right.
You are clearing your bell.
And the midwives was telling me that I was pushing really well, and I kept thinking, if that's the case, why is this taking so long? Why don't I feel any progression. And I remember my sister-in-law telling me that the best thing for her was pushing, because you feel progress, suddenly you feel like you're in control. And so I thought, yes, this is it, this is gonna be the moment. And none of that happened. So I remember feeling really disappointed and confused, because I didn't know what was happening. And
when the plane moved towards India.
Yeah, when we started steering towards India, and then suddenly some more people sort of came into the room. And
the people that came into the room was a doctor, and they brought in an ultrasound machine.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what they were looking at. And so all I see is that they're looking at it and they're timing Hannah, and then they disappeared for was probably like 5 or 10 minutes. It felt a lot longer again in the moment, because you're not really sort of tracking time. This was probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning now, so we'd been up for over 24 hours. And then about 8 doctors burst into the room,
and I was having contractions almost constantly. There was almost no break between contractions at all. And
what's the normal? It's three contractions in a 10-minute window.
Oh, look, there's no normal, Chris. It'll be it is what it is. It depends on where the baby is and what's being stimulated.
So I think at least the norm that was discussed was like 2 minutes long, 3 within a 10-minute window. You were getting double that.
They told me what I was having was double what they would usually see at that particular point. And so I again asked for the epidural a long time ago. What's happening? Can I have it now? And you could just see their faces drop, and they went, "Oh, it's too late now. You can't have it." Yeah. So that was pretty disappointing at that point, because I was just felt very out of control. And interestingly, I felt calm but out of control at the same time. And it could have been because I was so tired. But again, people were telling me, "You'll be screaming, you'll be doing this," and I didn't do any of that at all. I was really quite centered in the.
Tell me more about that, Hannah. Tell me more about that calm but out of control. What? That's a really interesting comment, because women's experiences in these really intense phases, women can be very loud and making noises and things like that and feel really happy about that. Like that can be a release. And then women can be very quiet and be feeling freaked out inside. Like there's you can never quite tell. So you said you were feeling calm and feeling a bit out of control. Tell me more about that.
I think I'd gone in thinking it was going to be a bit like a boxing match, where I would be like, like pushing forward and fighting, I guess, to do this thing or give birth. But it wasn't like that for me at all. I felt very much, I guess, like I couldn't control what was happening to me, and I was okay with that. Even if I was disappointed that I hadn't followed the birth plan, but I also felt a sense of peace about that too. I think too, because Chris, every time I had a contraction, every time I was pushing, he just kept saying, "You're doing so well. You don't." I can't remember the exact words, but "You're doing a good job," and that's what I needed to hear in that moment. And he said, "Gosh, I think at one point he was doing it for hours." So he was like, "Oh, is this helpful?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is really helpful."
Yeah, it was hours sounding like a broken record.
Yeah, but she still needed it though. Yeah,
to future support people. You might sound like a broken record, but you're doing the right thing.
Like they're critical.
It must have been the same sort of 10 sort of phrases. You're doing really great, honey. Keep going. It can't be that much longer. But, you're doing so good. And then I remember. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just curious about that, because these are little moments which in the transformation women go through, the whole I guess, invitation that birth gives us is the ability to surrender, because this is not something we can control. We can influence it, but we can't control it. And on some level, you were okay with that, Hannah. You were able to sort of, you know, be okay with letting go of the vision or the picture of what you would have liked, to just be in this moment right now, even though there was a whole lot of stuff going on.
Absolutely. I think surrender is a great word. That's what it felt like. I was sort of surrendering to what was happening to me. And it was like, oh, I'm doing all that I can control. And that's it. That's all I can do. And I've got my husband here telling me I'm doing a really good job. And I've got the midwives telling me I'm doing a good job. So that's all I can do. And I
that's all you needed to anchor yourself to.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So I felt really at peace with that. And it was more just than I hope my bub's okay, because things are starting to not seem right. So that was the concern, rather than it wasn't about me anymore. You know, I did all, it was kind of like out of my hands now. I'm doing all that I can. And you're
so
surrendering.
when you saw those people come in, was that reassuring for you?
Oh, I'm so out of it by this point, Tracy. I think
you weren't
I
even
was just
tuned
contractions.
Yeah.
And they were trying to explain to me what was happening, and I just couldn't take it in, because it was just, I was so tired by this point. And I think I really punished myself about that for a while. Like, I should have just gone to sleep, you know, earlier, and all that sort of thing. It's my fault. But you know, that's not helpful at all. And I've been able to make peace with that since then.
You're also so polite. Because, like, I remember, like, you know, you hear about people screaming and swearing and whatnot, and Han was so quiet. Like,
which is very unusual for me. I'm not a quiet person.
You wouldn't have thought she was, like, again, because you lose that sense of time. Like, I never picked up on that Han was having too many contractions. And, like, because you were very quiet, like, there obviously sort of moans and groans of pain, but no screaming. I remember one time you even swore once, and I said, oh, you know, here's a support person thing to do. Just let out another swear word, and you just turned to me and went, no, shut up. So, whatever gets you
Hannah,
through it.
You, given the nature of the way your labour started, and that your body responded very, very quickly to that substance on your cervix, it sounded like your uterus was going pretty hard. You know, it was really revved up, and really bringing on, you know, strong contractions quite close together from the very beginning. So it's a very, very revved up uterus right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your ability to rest at that point, darling, wouldn't have been anything that you could have done anyway.
There was no rest. There was
no rest.
You take breaks between contractions. There wasn't really a break to have. But when the doctors all rushed into the room, they told me that I was going to either have a cesarean or a forceps birth. And I think Chris even did turn to me and were like, all right, we're going to India. And again, that was such helpful framework, because it wasn't that I'd failed. It was that we just changed. And
the plan had changed, and that was okay.
Because I'm someone who's really hard on myself, and I'm very much a black and white thinker. And so being able to, I have that language was so empowering for me, because otherwise I know I would have beaten myself up. And I remember thinking, like, oh, please be a cesarean. I don't want to go through this. And when they did the, you know, ultrasound on Bub, and then they're like, oh no, we need to have a cesarean, we need to go now. And I just I think turned to say, does that mean the pain's going to go away? And they said, yeah, it is. I was like, bring it on. Yeah, I'm so ready for this. So I was so excited, and so excited to meet our boy. I was so ready by that point.
It was so funny, because there was a doctor or midwife or someone there trying to read Hannah, like, I guess the legal consent stuff. You know, we're going to do like, you know, this is what a C-section is, and, you know, we need you to sign here. But I think she has to read through, or they have to read through a you know, a list of, you know, this could happen, do you agree? And I remember she's trying to read that in between you not having contractions, And when the doctors came in, I was just thrown scrubs and told to get changed, so I did, and I came out to that, and I just said, to the lady, she then turned to me as soon as I came out, and she starts, from the beginning, and I said, "Is this a C-section?" And she goes, "Yes." I said, "Where do I sign?"
Yeah.
Because that's where going through both your course and I guess the Canberra Hospital information dump, we'd been told what to expect and what the risks were.
So you were already aware.
So we were well aware of what we were agreeing to, and
yeah.
Sorry, I think he's hungry. We'll just.
That's okay. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So, Chris, I'll just focus on you for a moment now.
Yep.
Tell me, what was your feeling at that point, and you being able to adjust to that new plan? Was that okay for you?
It was okay for me in the moment. Again, it was a shock when because as I said, you had the 2 doctors come in, do an ultrasound, and then just sort of disappear, followed by 8 people just throwing the doors open and someone just throwing scrubs on. I didn't even know how to put scrubs on. So, I was sitting there trying to do it up, because it's like a reverse shirt, so it's like I was trying to do it up at the back, and
he looks pretty good in the scrubs, I might add.
There you go. And, sexy in scrubs. Good for you.
Yeah. But again, knowing that after I'd asked, is this, are we going for a C-section? That's when I knew, you're right. Okay, now I know the next step, because we discussed, what happens if.
Yeah.
So going to India, I remember, they basically just wheel you straight out of the birthing unit and into an operating theatre.
We felt a bit like we were in, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy or something, because they were running us through.
They rush.
With the doors flying open. Even in the moment, I kind of thought it was funny because it was so dramatic, but I actually found it a bit, I don't know, it was a bit humorous, the whole situation. I don't know what it was about it, but I think
probably the morphine.
Probably the morphine. But I thought it was very dramatic that I'm there lying there having contractions left, right, and center, and people either side of me, rushing me through this hospital ward.
Were there any specific things you asked for the cesarean after doing that birth preferences?
We didn't in the moment, but Chris really advocated for a lot of that afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, which we'll get to in a moment. But so they prepped me up for the Caesar.
Yeah, they do separate you. Or at least that was our experience.
I had no idea that he wasn't there. No clue.
It was
to get the anaesthetic.
It was probably only 10 minutes that I wasn't there. It was in the emergency ward. I think I must have been in a kids ward or something, because they put me in this little playroom, and that was the longest 10 minutes. Because I was like, well, when they separated us, I didn't realize how emotional I guess I was in the moment, because it's adrenaline's pumping and all that sort of stuff. And then they separated us. I remember just sitting in that room, just bawling my eyes out.
Oh, wow.
And then I went, okay, what do I need to do in this moment? So I actually called Hannah's mum, because it was a Friday and she doesn't work on a Friday. So I knew that was the person to call. And then I called my dad, because he always has his mobile on him, and just told them, look, this is where we're at. We just, need you to think, can you please pass this, we're about to have a C-section. So, think, pray, that everything goes well. So
and from my side, I had no clue that Chris wasn't there. I was so out of it by that point, and they told me to stay still while I'm contracting. So I had all these surgeons holding me down so they could put the injection in the back. But I was blown away by the staff. They were so kind and supportive and encouraging.
They were really, really good.
We talked about love languages, Tracy, and mine is words of encouragement big time, and they did that so well, and so I felt so empowered that even in that moment that I was doing a good job. So that really helped.
Amazing, the power of kind words at a time where mothers are very emotionally raw and vulnerable in that space, and a little bit of kindness goes a long way. So you had the cesarean.
Yes.
How was it to meet him finally? Tell us about that.
Well, they even gave me the option to be asleep. They're like, we can knock you out for this, or you can stay awake. And I was like, I'm staying awake. I want to meet my baby. I couldn't believe that they were even giving me the option to knock me out.
Yeah, I remember. So coming into the room, it's very white. Like I just that's probably about as accurate as the TV shows and movies get. It's very white, very bright inside the room. And I remember them directing me to sit next to Hannah. So she's under a big like blue sort of surgical tarp, I guess. And I remember them doing the checks whether she could feel things. They put like little ice blocks on her to see if she can feel where it's cold.
Yeah.
And then I remember them starting, and then Hannah just turns to me and goes, "I can feel that." And so I look up, like there's a nurse right here, like if Hannah's down here, and I turn to her and I go, "She can feel this," and the nurse yells out to stop, and the surgeon just goes, "I can't. I need to get in." That sticks in my head.
Whoa.
And I heard that, and I turned to her and I just said, "Give her like laughing gas or something." I knew she wanted to be awake, so it was like laughing gas. I know that's the one that you stay awake for, so give her that. So you did get that.
And the fact that he advocated for me in that moment, going, "No, she wants to be awake still in this." So
it wasn't knock her out. It was give her something that keeps her awake.
And did they do that, Hannah?
Yeah, they did, which was
good.
Hard, but still worth it. Yeah, absolutely worth it. And then he, they pulled him out, and I saw him sort of flying over me and crying, and I was just so happy that he was out, and that was my boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
Did you know you were having a boy?
Yeah, we did. I think that was the first thing I asked, though, was like, "Are we sure it's a boy?" Because I did not mind in the slightest, but when you sort of pictured this is what your child's going to be, just like, just checking.
We found that out early. We got the NIPT test because we had COVID during that week where they can
do the first scan.
Do the first scan and tell Down syndrome and all that sort of stuff. So part of getting the NIPT is they blank out the sex and go, "Do you want to know? Because we can send you the uncensored version with the sex in it." And we said, "Yeah, sure, we'd like to know." So, I remember
when he
the
was
moment
when he was born. Did they place him straight onto you?
No. So
were they concerned about him?
Yeah, they were. So he. So this was post talking with the midwife. Apparently his lactic levels, is that the right thing for the I guess sort of adrenaline, and they basically said it was like running a marathon, and his lactic levels were ridiculously high because he'd gotten stuck, and he with all that pushing, he actually had a flat head. That's when I first realized how malleable their heads are. I guess in a normal baby, you'd see it as a cone. His was the opposite. It was just dead flat. And he got stuck. So I think part of that was when they first scanned him, he was the right way around. And then he turned to be
posterior.
Posterior. So he was head down, but wrong way around. And so when he went to the birth canal, his head was pushed up and he just got squashed and got stuck.
It doesn't mold as well in that position. So just explaining that to the listeners, when a baby's rotated and posterior, they're often pushing on the mum's spine, but also their head doesn't present as well onto the cervix. And then, of course, if they've sort of gone through out of the doorway and into the birth canal, and that head hasn't sort of moved into a tuck dive position, which molds really easily, sounds like it was more of that flat surface area, which meant he got a little bit stuck. So was that helpful to realise that at the end, Hannah, that this wasn't anything you'd done? This is just the the way
It's just
babies,
how it went.
it's the luck of the draw.
Absolutely.
You can't control those things.
Yeah, absolutely. That was so helpful because there was all this stuff in the lead up, make sure you're sleeping the right way at night and make sure you're leaning forward, you're not leaning back. So I did all of those things, and for him to still flip at the last second, it was so disheartening. And because he was 2 weeks, overdue, he was a big boy, and he just wasn't going to fit, and that's okay. There's nothing that I could have done any different in that moment.
He's got Dad's head.
Yeah, look, I don't have a tiny head. But yeah, he didn't, unfortunately, I didn't get to even hold him.
No.
But you pushed for it.
So they took him to check him.
Yeah.
And that's where I was torn, because they're like, once I guess they were okay, it's like one of the midwives came over and said, come on over. And that's when I was really torn. Do I stay with Hannah? Do I go to the pub? I'm like not sure where I need to be, even though it's like 3 meters. So went over and they wanted to see if I wanted to cut the cord, and I was okay. And they gave him the vitamin K injection, and then I'm just like they said, okay, we'll bring him over. So go sit back with Mum. Oh, hello, my boy.
Right on cue. Nice job. That
was funny, wasn't it? What was I saying before?
Had the vitamin K injection.
Yeah, vitamin K injection. Then they're
and
like,
they were bringing him over.
We'll bring him over. So I remember just sitting back next to Hannah, and they brought him over, and I remember they basically handed him to me, and the first thing I did was made sure that he was facing Mum.
That she could see
just so they could do that first imprint on each other.
That was so special.
Because he was crying the whole time, so my hope was, his eyes have been shut and he hasn't imprinted on someone else, and it's just right. Make sure you look at Mummy.
Lovely.
It was very special.
I didn't feel like I missed out. I even though in an ideal world I would have, and we talked about this, he would be on me for as long as possible, but we didn't have that. But I don't feel like I lost anything, because Chris pushed for that, saying no, she needs to see her baby, and so he held him and I got to talk to him, and we had that bonding moment. And while it wasn't what we thought it was going to be, or what other people have, it was our moment, and it was still so special.
It's our moment, and he was safe, and so was Mum. That was the two most important
that's all
things.
That mattered.
So your ability to accept that, Hannah, that's a really interesting comment about it was okay. And it was okay because Chris was still advocating. You still felt like you had a voice, and you were able to bring him back. See, so much of personal power or empowerment through birth comes from being able to make decisions, being able to have a voice. And when you've got a partner who really knows what's important and speaks up about, letting them know, okay, the pediatrician might want to check the baby, but assuming that he's crying and breathing well, come on, it's time to go back to Mum. And that in itself is other conditions that support empowerment, and it's also enables you then to accept the fact that it wasn't ideal, but it was still our story, and we really embrace that.
I mean, it didn't, like, the advocating doesn't stop there either.
No. Tell us more about that, Chris.
They obviously had their face-to-face time, Mummy, and like, because you were underneath the surgical stuff, so she didn't have access to her hand, so I was just holding him. And then I think it started going back almost 6 months now. It's I think you started feeling them stitch you back together or something like that, and you were just like, okay, I need to go to sleep. So they were able to put Hannah under while they finished up, and then it was basically our midwife told me, we're taking him back to the room. So they were separating us again. And so we wheeled him back to the room, and it was just holding him. then they like I think so. Midwives are. I mean, it might vary just depending on the midwife, but ours was really respectful, and she'd always ask for, I guess, consent. Can it was can we give him the vitamin K? I can't remember the second injection, but when we got back to the room, she's like, "Oh, can I give him this other one?" And then they had to like do some foot pricks to check his. He had low sugar and high lactic levels, and so the lactic levels would clear over time, and the sugar level would help reduce that. So he had, a glucose shot, and they'd always ask, "Is it okay if we do this?" Okay, yeah. And I remember we were due. So he did the first wee on me, so I learned how to change a nappy.
You got christened.
Yeah, I got christened, and we put him in the thing and removed the thing, and she's like, "Just put a nappy on him," and I'm like, "I don't know how." So that was a nice little moment because she actually taught me how to put a nappy on.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, we need to go do another blood test. So can we wheel him out?" And I just said, "Look, we can keep." Like I said I remember saying to her, I said, "We can do whatever. Like, let's get as much done as we can because as soon as Hannah's back in the room, they're having time together, like uninterrupted." And so, we went and did a couple of those. At this stage, I still didn't know where Hannah was at. And I remember one of the doctors saying, "Oh, yeah, she's in recovery." And like, because she'd happened to come up for something else. And I said, "Look, I haven't heard anything." And she's like, "Oh, she's in recovery, doing well." So I was like, "Okay, don't have to worry about mum now. She's okay." And then on a second trip to do another foot prick, they said, "Oh, mum's back in the room." And I said, "Okay, wrap that up. Like, get as much blood as you need for the test because I'm going back." So as soon as that was done, he was in the like bassinet thing, and then because they won't let you carry. You have to when you're moving between rooms, you have to put him in a trolley thing. I remember just trying not to bolt back to the room, so mum could have her first cuddles.
Chris.
Yeah,
making sure that she got what she needed. You were fabulous. Great voice during the whole process to not just encourage her, but also to just make sure everything was right. I mean, you couldn't get luckier. So let me ask you both this question. What did you learn about yourself as a result of going through this? Let's start with you, Chris. What did you learn about yourself?
Well, again, it reaffirmed what I didn't know doing the course, and I was so glad we did it. Learning, I guess part of your course is teaching the support people how do you support.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think I would have been anywhere near as useful as I was in that moment, like making those decisions. It's like, I probably would have instantly folded if Anne was begging for painkillers, but I knew that because we said we'll try to do it without painkillers, it's like, no, if distractions aren't working, that's when she gets them. I guess just sort of how much, like, it's a weird thing having a kid as a dad. You're not doing the carrying and stuff, and you can feel like, I guess, attached, but you're still not carrying the kid and developing the kid. But the instant love you get as soon as you see him, it's just like nothing else. Like, it's not like when I first met Hannah, it's like, we were friends and then we started dating and all that. It was just this instant, right, you're mine, like, you're so precious, like, So.
Can I ask you this question? Do you think you would have had such an instant bond if you didn't feel quite as involved and useful?
It's an interesting question. I would say it would probably be that, but because I guess I was so involved, it may have been more intense love, because lack of a better way of putting it, it's like there was I'd earned like sort of that, right, he's mine, I've done my job as a support person, now I can just enjoy the dad bit, like,
I
don't know.
Well, I tell you my theory in just what I'm hearing from you and what I'm sensing is in your role, because you were so active in not only supporting Hannah to find comfort, but you're also active in making sure things happen for her and the baby. And I suspect the father beast got ignited.
Probably, yeah.
The father beast of just stepping up and protecting his family and looking after him, because you were so active when that baby hit the airways. There was a part of you very, very primed to fall in love with that baby. Now, we all fall in love with our babies because we're complex creatures and we're wired to bond. It's absolutely part of our survival mechanism is to bond with our babies. It's very innate. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think because you were so involved that the intensity was probably...
Yeah, the intensity is probably the way to put it. Yeah,
higher.
it was so much higher, and it was just, I guess, like, again, with the being involved, there was this reward with the involvement. Like, I know I didn't have to push a baby out or go through the surgery or anything, but it was like, yeah, there was this reward at the end, and that was this nice little healthy baby with a flat head. So,
yeah. And we know that the more involved partners are and fathers are in those early days and weeks, the more confident they get, the more they enjoy their babies, and the more involved they become more. It's like a positive sort of upward spiral. By being involved and getting confident, you enjoy the whole process, and you recognize also just how intrinsically important you are to the family unit. That ability to have someone who's really stepping up and igniting that, that, in your case, that manhood of being the father, which is a bigger version of the man. That's just brilliant. What would you say, Chris, to another pregnant partner, a dad or another woman? What would you say?
Do your course. And I'm not being paid to say that.
Darling.
Again, a lot of that sort of in the moment stuff came from what I learnt in the course, because, again, as I said, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then I had the knowledge of how I could do something in the moment.
Yeah.
Because particularly I remember that's probably the part that's stuck in my head with the course, was you can plan a trip to Italy but end up going to India, and that's exactly what happened to us. And I was so prepared to deal with that. Like, because that's the way it came and fell and happened. So yeah, that was the most valuable thing for me, and it meant that you felt supported, which hopefully means we'll have another kid at some point, because
hang on.
she'll let you back in the breeding bed.
Like, not that, but
is that what you mean?
No, it's just you like, I mean, you've seen it with some of the videos that you showed in the course. There are these mums that have an absolutely traumatic experience, and some of them went on to have good births, but there's probably a lot of women out there who just go, nah, I'm not having that was too traumatic. I'm never having another child. And that would be really sad if my lack of support was the cause of that.
Wow.
That decision.
Beautiful. Thank you, Chris. Now, Hannah, what did you learn about yourself? You legend, you.
I think, and we talk about this a lot, Tracy, that I can do hard things.
Yeah.
And I wish, I had that voice telling me when I was pregnant, rather than, here's the pain, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be horrible. It's like, no, you can do hard things, you can do it. And I did, and it didn't happen how I thought it was going to, but I did do something that was really difficult and could have been really traumatic.
It was. It was.
But I don't feel traumatized from it at all. I actually feel really empowered about what happened to us, and almost grateful that it happened the way that it did, because I think because I couldn't move for those first couple of days, Chris really had to step up.
Few weeks.
First couple of weeks, really. And whenever Alex was crying, Chris had to be the one to pick him up and comfort him or hand him to me. And I think that's created more of a sense of a team here. It's not that I'm the mum, so I take charge of the baby. It's we're a team.
Well, it was the as I said before, the advocating doesn't stop. Because I remember you finally made it to the toilet, like 5 meters away from the bed.
Not to brag, I couldn't walk to the bathroom.
This was like a day. It was probably 2 days after the C-section, I think. And then as soon as you got back to the bed, the midwife turned to me and goes, "Okay, so can we check out tomorrow?" And I'm like, "No, because Han can make it to the toilet, but she's not ready to run to the car." Like, I thought that was absolutely, and I told the midwife that. I said, "Look, this is, I know the baby's healthy. Mum's not ready. Mum needs another day or two to recover."
Good for you. That's great. What else? Anything else, Hannah, you want to say about what you learned about yourself?
I think I learned that I can really trust Chris. Like I knew that, but this was the ultimate test. I'm getting a bit teary because I just felt so lost before we did your course, because I just felt like I didn't know what I was doing, and I felt that Chris wasn't really listening to me when I was like, "You need to be listening to this course," and he's like, "Oh, you'll be right. You'll tell me what to do." And I just felt so hopeless helpless. Sorry, that I was going to be on my own doing it. And so yes, that I can do hard things, but it's so much easier to do hard things when you've got someone right beside you,
who's got
helping
your back.
you do that as well, who's got your back. And because he had my back, I felt the support of then the staff at the hospital, who were absolutely wonderful. And then that carried on. I had so much trouble breastfeeding at the start, but Chris was right there beside me. And one of the match nurses actually commented that Chris's support was part of the reason I persevered to breastfeed. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can do hard things, but we can do hard things together, and that makes a huge difference.
It's definitely a team thing.
Yeah.
Like raising a kid, it's definitely given me a lot of respect for single mothers. That's for sure too.
Single parents can, they find their community, hopefully, and get support as well. But it sounds like it really puts you, that process of preparation really puts you in the right space to be able to handle this. And when you look at Hannah and Chris's story, it potentially had all of the ingredients of quite a traumatic experience, having a uterus that was going really, really strongly as a result of the cervical ripening agent. So it was very intense. It was very quick. Those contractions came on, and then the pushing stage, baby got stuck. And yet Hannah doesn't show any signs of being overwhelmed or traumatized, even though there were times that were, very difficult for her. And I think a big part of this whole story is helping us to understand the role of the partner and just how significant they can be in helping to protect the emotional state of the mother. The emotional state of the mother is paramount. And through the advocacy of Chris, the continual encouragement and the words of affirmation for Hannah, as well as staff who were incredibly kind and respectful, you can never underestimate the power of that. Hannah was able to get through quite an exceptional set of circumstances and come out absolutely thriving. And I've watched Hannah's journey into motherhood, and she's in my new mothers classes as well, and she's an absolute shining light of confidence and radiance and enjoyment of her little ones. So I want to thank both Hannah and Chris for sharing their incredible story today, and particularly you, Chris, being my first dad online, which is wonderful. I'm very, very grateful for that. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode and learnt lots through their stories. So once again, we'll have another episode for you next week. So have a great week, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.